Okay, I think we're recording now. All right, guys. Well, needless to say, we had a pretty darn fantastic day today, and we had some pretty timely entries and exits on a couple of different things. Our euro dollar obviously turned out pretty darn good. We were short the euro dollar from this little spike up right here. We got in at 85, which is right about there, 132.85. You can see that dip down 50. About 53 pips, and we took about 43 pips of that movement. So literally about 100%, 90% almost of this movement right here. We did good on that one, and then it ended up bouncing and running higher and doing all that. So we got a nice little trade on this euro dollar this morning, which worked out super awesome great. Now let's talk about a couple of different factors on the euro dollar. Right now things are a little bit all over the place. Quickly, let's address what retail traders are doing with the euro dollar. Currently, huge amounts of traders are short. Like 70% are short euro dollar. So that's 65 to 70%. So that's pretty high, obviously. They're apparently looking for some sort of bounce lower. And let's look for some of those potential signs of whether or not that may actually be happening. So euro dollar here has been, double topping and running higher. We still have a missed weekly pivot right here, which is going to be a nice target at some point this week. We've got a couple of days left, and I think there's still plenty of opportunity for us to be able to short this pair just a little bit. But apparently that moment is not just yet. So again, kind of double topping, doing a little bit of this, that, and the other. What are our opportunities for entry? I don't totally know just yet. I don't have any real specific area that is, necessarily exciting me, I guess you could say. The euro's running up. It's coming into some resistance. This 13300 area is definitely some pretty solid resistance. It's just a little bit above that. It's not making any kind of super significant, runs yet. So I don't really know what I want to do with this one yet. All I know is that retail traders are hugely positioned for this thing to continue higher, because once again, the overwhelming majority, 65 to 70%, in a few cases 70%, are short euro dollar. And remember, if anyone's unfamiliar with the retail trader positions and how we look at those, basically the market ends up usually doing the opposite to some degree or another. So retail traders are short. The euro dollar will probably continue higher. Where a good entry is going to be, honestly, I just don't know right now. I just don't know where I want to get into this thing. The one thing that we can look at potentially is the channel here. I'm a little tiny bit less interested in a few of the dollar pairs right now, because they're just not in a good position, and it definitely happens. Sometimes we just have those times where where there's just not a lot we can look at and trade. You can see that on this short-term channel of the last couple of weeks, the euro dollar is basically right smack dab in the middle. So we could be making a run to that lower area to be able to buy on that dip, or we could be rallying to that top to sell off that resistance. I don't know. So to be totally honest, there's not too much I'm going to be doing on the euro dollar in the way of all of that. Now, of course, the factor of the missed daily pivot does give us at least a short-term small opportunity, but I'm a little bit leery of shorting this thing with as much upside pressure as we have seen. But the missed daily pivot is right about 132.80, 87-ish, which is right there. So here's our missed daily pivot. So we're 25 to 30 pips away from that, and I don't know where my favorite entry, where my favorite opportunity is going to be on this little run up. So just know that it may run down 25 to 30 pips to hit that area, but it's still, I don't know. My gut right now says stay out of the euro dollar, so I'm going to stay out of it. If anyone has any questions or comments they would like to bring up about the euro dollar, by all means, don't hesitate. I'm happy to discuss anything. But again, there's just nothing I see that looks too great to be getting into right now. Okay, so that's euro dollar. Again, questions, comments, I'm all ears. We can always go back to something if we need to, so don't worry if I've moved on from it. Let me know what you are thinking, wondering about, asking about on the euro dollar, and I'll happily discuss it. I don't know. Is the audio good for everyone still? Are we still good in the audio department? Do we still have good audio? Okay, all right. Looks like it's okay out west. All right. Okay, I got Comcast too, so I will happily blame them with you. I have this like expensive, like their biggest, highest speed internet, and it still drags quite a bit. And I think, what does high speed mean these days? I don't know. Okay, let's get to the pound dollar here and what the pound dollar is doing. Now, the one thing that the euro dollar has done that the pound dollar has not done is the euro dollar has broken the high of last week. Not by much, but by a couple of pips. It's above that high. The pound dollar is not yet above this high. In fact, it's still below it by a decent amount, by about 40 pips. So what I'm ultimately looking at on the pound dollar is for this to make that run into the weekly pivot point, the missed weekly pivot point that sits at about 154.80. Because we've definitely crossed the 23% fib a couple of times. So again, I'm a little bit cautious and a little bit leery about this one, but I think we'll have a nice opportunity to potentially short the pound dollar against this high, aiming for at least a missed daily pivot point. Now the missed daily pivot here, let's make sure it is missed, on the pound dollar sits at about 156.04, which is a pretty good little distance down here. 04 is right about there. You can see that gives us nearly 40 pips of potential profit. So what I would look at potentially here on this pound dollar, it's pretty bullish. Number one. Number two, we know that our high here is about 156.82. I would consider getting into this trade about 20 pips from the high, 20 to 25 pips from the high, which would put us just about. Let's say, and I'll have to look a few more specifics here, but let's say we short the pound dollar around 156.65. I'm going to say 65 because we need to get our stops up there just a little bit more. So 156.65 should be pretty good. That's about a 25 pip risk for a pretty good reward. Now the reason that this pound dollar, everything is telling me it's good. My gut is telling me that this isn't my favorite trade, but all the technicals are here. Missed weekly pivot, crossed the 23% fib, staying below this high so far. All of that stuff is pretty good for the bearish side of this movement on the pound dollar. Plus, we have a missed daily pivot. Do we have a missed daily pivot on the euro recently? We don't. We don't on the euro, and we have a missed daily pivot back here on Thursday on the pound dollar. Missed weekly pivot, across the 23% fib. All of that stuff is definitely at least pointing to a little bit of a pullback of some degree. And so I think that's where the pound dollar gets interesting. But once again, I only want to risk something that has a really good risk to reward. So in this case, once again, looking to possibly short 156, 65-ish area with about a 20, maybe 25 pip stop at the most, and targeting that missed pivot. Now, retail positions on the pound dollar currently are a little less extreme than the euro. They're right now on the pound we see that about 55% or so are short, whereas we have like 65 to 70 short on euro dollar. So only about 55% are short. So it gives us at least a little bit of a better chance that this thing might be able to stay below this double top and give us that move lower. So I like that. That's all good looking. Everything's good there. A few things to kind of keep in mind is that the pound is just retracing a little bit. So remember, this is my monthly chart. We had this big breakout on the pound dollar. It made this huge run down. It bottomed out at 148.20-ish area, and now it is. It's been kind of consolidating and coming back, and I think we've got a good opportunity just below this trend line to short it just a little bit more and get some of those moves. So I'd say that's a pending order, and we'll put that on. And we'll look at it, and I'll keep everyone updated on whether that order changes or anything there. But I think about 20 pips above current market price should be pretty good to look at shorting the pound dollar. So again, not doing anything on the euro dollar, shorting the pound dollar for the missed daily pivot point, and we'll probably be even more conservative than the daily pivot, and kind of do that type of thing. Okay, questions on the pound dollar. I'll flip back to it for just a second. So if anybody have any questions, are we all good on the pound dollar? Anything at all? Okay, let's move over to the Aussie dollar. This pair right here has done a very, almost surprising bounce here. The Aussie dollar has just pushed even below this 2011 low, so now we're starting to work into the lows. We have a long ways to go before we get to 2010 lows, but we've definitely gotten below 2011, and this Aussie has finally found a little bit of support. Now, here's what I love about the Aussie dollar, and this is where I think this is going to be a great potential trade. A couple of things. Number one, positions are still 75% of traders are long today. Aussie dollar, 75%. Now that's pretty crazy. That's pretty lopsided to have 70+% of traders on one side of things. But if you look at it against yesterday, 83% of traders were long yesterday, Aussie dollar. So they're starting to pull back. This bounce up is telling everyone, hey, it's time to sell the bounce once again, which means it's actually time to buy this bounce. And I think that we're going to get a pretty good substantial bounce here. So what I'm going to be looking for is what I wanted to show here on this daily chart. Was this fantastic. This is where I just love candlestick stuff. Candlestick patterns and all that are so great. This is like the world's most pronounced pin bar on the planet. This is something that you almost want to just put a buy position on right now. If it goes against you, just keep buying this thing all the way down until it breaks the low / margins your account out. Okay, that's not totally recommended, but this kind of a pin bar right here, this candle is going to close shortly, and that is a crazy bullish reversal, fantasticness, and that's something that we need to be buying into. The only issue is I would really like to see a bit of retracement. Now we have a gap to fill still. We have right here, there's a few pips from that highest point, 20 pips or so. We've got a missed weekly pivot that's up here. It's currently about 45 pips away from that. So there's definitely a couple of things in the works on this Aussie dollar that we've got to that we've got to meet to the upside. But for the most part, at least on this kind of short-term range right here, we're crossing fib levels. And honestly, I'll tell you the reason I'm not even putting fib levels on here, because I don't even care. I care so much about the price pattern here and the fact that this is reversing. Remember, on this daily chart, we're not going to close below the low of just let me make sure my information's correct here, so I'm not saying a bunch of craziness. Yeah, okay, so that's right. So we're so far we have not closed, and at least on this daily candle, we're not going to close below the low of 2011. So we dip down there, we get this huge pin bar on the weekly chart as well. Big reversal, big pin bar on the weekly and daily. Obviously, we won't know on that weekly chart for a couple of days if that is in fact going to be a pin bar, but we know on the daily chart it absolutely is. And so, again, I've rehashed that plenty, I'm sure, but now what I'm looking for is an opportunity to buy this dip. Now, this is where some fib levels will be good to some degree. I'm not going to trade the downside on this one, but I will be looking to probably use some fib levels to help me get that entry, as best positioned as I can. So here's this high to low right here, or excuse me, low to high, and it's about 150 pips. From this high point, we've got the 23% fib around 94.40. If we can get below that, then I'm going to be looking for entry opportunities around the 50% fib, which is basically 9,400. 9,400, that's going to put our stop, I will have a 75 pip stop. Now this will be a trade that we'll scale into. We'll start small. I love this trade so much that I am happy to have a 75 pip stop. We'll start like half size on this one and then just scale into it, however we need to. So that's probably going to be my general area around 9,400, maybe as low as 9,380, but probably not too much more than that. So that's what I'll be looking for as far as my entry goes. Now, if we stay above this thing and it starts to rally and starts to do stuff, then I may buy it at the break of the weekly high. But we'll put a pending order on the Aussie dollar to finish the session, and we'll be looking to get long against those lows. That's such a pronounced reversal candle that I just can't imagine not getting that piece of movement right there. Any questions on the Aussie dollar? Any questions at all? That was a pretty... I'm like passionate about the Aussie dollar right now because of what it's done. It's just been tanking and tanking and tanking and tanking, and everybody's you know, just been getting hammered all the way down. There's been tons and tons of longs, and I think enough longs have finally gotten taken out that it's now ready for the big reversal and the big turn. So Aussie dollar should be a great little reversal. I don't know what my upper profit target is going to be just yet, to be honest, and I don't think it matters that much. I think we're going to be able to sit on this trade for a day or two or three, and you know, and then start to identify those potential profit targets. So Aussie dollar, excellent. Pending order coming on that one. Questions, comments, guys. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. If I'm running through anything too quickly, just let me know. But, you know, again, I'll have these things posted in the notes, and I'll have pending orders and on the pairs that we've talked about, and so on. Okay, let's get to the euro yen and pound yen. These pairs, and really specifically, the pound yen has been so generous to us lately. It's been crazy. Yeah, thanks for reminding me, Tom. I knew I missed something here. Missed pivot 97.70. Where from last Thursday? Like of a couple Thursdays ago? Are we talking Aussie dollar? How come I'm not seeing it? Help me out here. Help me out. So yeah, I guess it kind of depends where your pivot is. So my pivot right here, if you're talking this day on 6/5 on June 5th, I have that as being reached right here. So this high, you know, at least reaches the bottom of that pivot. This is where pivots are tricky. You know, it's always give or take a couple of pips. So it might be good to verify this and, you know, on a couple of different charts and try to get an average there. But at least on my charts, I have that as reached. But again, most of the time, missed pivots get run through by a couple of pips to just really clear the area. So that'll probably still be a very good, very valid target for that upside movement for sure. Okay, there's another thing I was going to say about the Aussie dollar. Pivots, something. Darn it, I can't remember what it was. I'm sure it was crazy, but yeah, anyways, that's... oh yeah, I was going to say the missed pivot trade for today, which could also help our entry. That's right. Missed pivot 94.06. So that plays in nicely with my entry of wanting to get in around 9,400. So I think a buy limit is still pretty safe at 9,400 on Aussie dollar to get long. So that just that helps. That's all good. Very, very good stuff. And thanks for the comments, guys. Keep them coming. Questions, comments, keep them coming. Okay, on to this euro yen. Let's immediately address the missed pivot so that I don't forget that. Euro yen 128, approximately 128.70. So that means our missed pivot is from current market price nearly 70 pips away, or just about 70 pips away. So what I'm looking for on this one is I definitely think there's some potential stuff to be had on the upside here, but I'm honestly a little more interested in kind of watching this downside movement. You know, this is the trade I got into on the pound yen that made us 95 pips almost as fast as we could, you know, click out of the trade, and so we may end up with a missed pivot or two or three on the euro yen before this thing really starts to pull back. But we do have that missed pivot way up there. It'll be a good thing to watch for and look for. This range, so we have a very nice little range right here that we can watch with the pivot. There's a couple things I want to talk about here, so I'm going to try to stay on track as best I can. But this high to low right here is kind of the starting point of what we should be able to do. So number one, In this high to low, what are we looking at as far as pips go? 420 pips. Why not? It had been almost an entire day. So 420 pips. We're sitting 128.10 is that 23% fib. So once we get above that, let's start looking for those opportunities to enter and get long to the 38% fib, which is basically, I think, 72. So the 28% fib, or the 38% fib, excuse me, is basically perfectly overlapping the missed daily pivot point. So that's good. But once again, one thing that I'll be looking for most likely before I get long on this pair is I want to see it open above the 23% fib, and then I'm going to be actually watching for a break of this trend line. I think we might have another opportunity for this to run into these lows, run 50 or 60 pips down, and I would rather be able to, remember the way that we trade this is we get above the 23% fib and then we wait for pullback, at least, a third to a half of the distance from the 23 down to 0. So, in this case right here, you can see it's about 100 pips, give or take. So the 50-ish pip mark is right around 127.60. That could be a good area, if not a little bit lower, to get long on Euro Yen and trade up to that 38% fib slash daily pivot point. That might be kind of a lot to take in for the moment. I'm going to go back and look at that, or explain that again, and I'll have it posted in the notes. But that's just one little short-term thing that we're going to be doing. A, looking for a little bit of a break down. B, looking to buy against this low and get back above the 23% fib and into the 38. So pretty simple as far as that goes. Now, ultimately what I'm looking for on the Euro Yen is what is going to happen here. And this is where I think we have a very good potential of if this does dip down and if we can stay above this high, then our stops need to be down below this 126.15 area, because on the larger time frame what we have going on in this Euro Yen is a huge hammer, huge reversal candle. Even though we have a huge bearish candle, almost a bearish engulfing, not quite, but a big bearish candle right here, working its way down, I still want to trade against this low, 126.15. I want to trade against that low and get long on the Euro Yen and see if we can trade it back up towards those highs. That's just a huge reversal candle, and the closer we can get into that low, the better off we are, keeping that stop tight and having a big potential run up into these highs. So I still think, because of that candle there and the fact that we haven't yet crossed these bigger fib levels here, we're still a ways from the 23% fib. I think we have a good opportunity to trade against this low on a little bit of that pullback, and I think that pullback can come with a breakout here and a buy against this low and getting back above that 23% fib. And once we do, I think we're in pretty safe territory in trading against this low as well towards some of the bigger, 200 and 300 and 400 pip runs up. Does that make sense at all? It feels like it should make sense, and it kind of feels like it shouldn't as well. But does that sound pretty okay to everyone? Again, this will be recorded. You can watch it and review it a couple of times. But short term, break the trend line, buy against this low. If this gets above the 23% fib, let's maybe hold on to it even a little bit longer than the 38 and the 50 and the 61.8, because we have a bigger setup in play, is basically what I'm saying. And retail positions on Euro Yen, let's just discuss that real quick. Euro Yen retail positions are, hold on here, hold on. Euro Yen, 60% are short, 60%, which I think gives us a great opportunity to buy that dip pretty nicely. Yeah, yep, Gustavo, yep, stops around 12600. So Ted, really what we're looking for is we're not necessarily going to have our stops. If we get into this little breakout down right here, we're going to be trading against this first low, but ultimately I'm hoping that the trade plays out as more of a trade against this low. Now, we're not going to move our stops down there or anything like that. We're just looking at this more as an opportunity to get in around the 50% mark of this candle, if not a little bit lower, to enter the retracement and trading against this low and getting that reversal. So again, our stops are going to be below, really most likely below 12700. So to clarify that with you, Gustavo, that's really where I want our stops to be, because you can have them below 12600 because that's ultimately the level we're trading against, but I don't think we need to risk quite that much. If we get in, at that little breakout and that pullback and so on, that becomes a good distance to get back below this major low. And as long as we can stay above this low and get above the 23% fib, I think I think we're going to be successfully trading the reversal from this big dip right here. Yes, yep, exactly, Gustavo, exactly, 100%, totally right. Does that make sense, Ted and everyone, and Gustavo? Is that kind of okay? Good. Okay, so that's Euro Yen, and a lot of it's going to depend on getting in, and keeping those stops tight, and hopefully getting that nice little entry. Now this will probably be something we'll trade in the group. I'll include as much as I can in the notes, and it'll be in the video as well. But this will be something good to keep an eye on. Okay, Aussie Yen, not doing anything on that one just yet, but that might have something good coming up. Pound Yen is looking very, very similar. Same thing, big hammer, huge hammer, down here with a low of 148.15. So 126.15 on the Euro Yen, 148.15 on the Pound Yen. Funny that they're both 15s. Huge hammer right here. Looking to trade against that. Same kind of situation. Our missed pivot on the Pound Yen is 151.25. So there's obviously tons of pips to be had there. There's about that 20. There we go, 25-ish area. So we're 80 pips away from that one. Same thing on this Pound Yen. I'd like to see probably a break first. It's kind of just running up this trend line and testing it. So I'd like to see a break first because I want to be trading against this low. We're going to have basically the exact same numbers, same setup, same everything on this Pound Yen as the Euro Yen. Neither of them have closed above the 23% fib yet. They're both just kind of sitting there and hovering and so on. So ultimately getting a break of this trend line and getting in as close to this low as possible and trading up through those levels should be a great reversal opportunity for the yen pairs. So basically same thing on Euro Yen as Pound Yen. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. As far as trading up to that missed pivot, you can see, I'm trying to figure out what that level is. You can see that we have a pretty common little high level here, which is around 150, 55, 56 even. A break above that, if we don't get the breakout down first, a break above that might take us into that missed pivot first and into that 38% fib. So just watch that. And there might be a little scalping opportunity there, but this is very likely going to be some stuff that we'll be trading, during the U.S. session. And as always, I'll be keeping my eye on things tonight and looking for an opportunity to do this during the Asian / later on this evening type session. So I'm going to get some pending orders placed. Hopefully everything is semi-clear what I was talking about. Breakouts on Euro Yen and Pound Yen to the downside, trading against daily lows, looking to target missed pivots and upper fib levels. Again, I'm not super worried about profit targets on either of these because I think they have a little bit of potential to run as well. Not super concerned about a profit target on the Aussie dollar because I think it's got a bit to go. So that's what I'm looking for. It might be a mouthful and an earful and a brainful, but I think we're going to see some really good stuff happen here. So that's what we're going to be watching for. I'm going to pause the audio for a moment and update the notes. While I'm doing that, please think of any questions. I want to make sure that everyone's clear on this. It will be in the video as well, so you'll have a chance to kind of review and re-review, but that's kind of what I'm looking for and doing right now. So think of your questions, shoot them on over, and I'm going to update these notes real quick.